wild horse is a symbol, not only of the American West, but of America itself. Over the last 100 years, the population of wild horses in America has dropped from roughly 2 million down to less than 30,000. And if something doesn't change, many believe these amazing creatures will soon disappear forever.
I think it's important you take care of your horses.
We've got ranchers and we've got oil drillers, and the horses are what get sacrificed when it comes to the land.
Imagine if you're married, you have your wife and your family, and you're rounded up and you're pushed into these pens. They take your wife and throw you in a pen with a bunch of other young, aggressive males.
Despite the love and respect so many people feel for these national treasures, the future of wild horses on this continent is in jeopardy. Many people believe this is the result of years of mismanagement, compounded by threats from recent legislation.
You know, the wild horses belong to all of us. It's not just the federal government.
The Bureau of Land Management, it's a federal agency that oversees public lands in the American West.
The BLM owns about 280 million acres in states like New Mexico, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada. The BLM is the dominant landholder.
Some of it's used for extractive industries, some of it's used for recreation.
And also, the Bureau of Land Management is in charge of protecting wild horses.
Organized roundups or gathers, generally conducted from trucks or helicopters, play a central role in the BLM's management of wild horses. Many people have grown critical of the way the BLM conducts these gathers.
There's nothing I've ever seen more destructive than a wild horse roundup.
You start out as slow and you actually do a lot of herding. You locate them and drift them towards your trap.
The males are driven into corrals on the left and the females on the right.
When we gather horses, we're putting back some of the best quality. We're trying to improve the herds.
They're auctioning the best horses off, where they should be leaving a percentage of them. And anything that's adoptable, they're taking.
These horses have families. Let them stay together, like people.
The idea of them being imprisoned in one way or another for the rest of their lives is like taking us out of our homes and putting us in a concentration camp. It's horrible.
My mother, who grew up in Romania, she said, "So what happens after the horses are caught?" And I said, "Well, they go to these holding facilities and they're processed." She said, "It's just like the camps."
We've heard all kinds of stories that they're being fattened up to go to slaughter.
What do you think of H.R. 503 and S. 311, which is the American Horse Slaughter Prevention Act?
I'm not going to comment on that.
It's a sick, insidious document. It includes the destruction of healthy animals, burning them in burial pits.
They're planning to, what they call euthanize, over 30,000 wild horses.
Euthanize is a very nice word for saying we're going to slaughter them. We're just going to kill these horses.
For decades, beginning in 1971, American wild horses were protected under the Wild Free-Roaming Horse and Burro Act.
Very recently, without a hearing or an opportunity for public review, Senator Conrad Burns from Montana snuck a rider into the 2005 federal appropriations bill.
The Burns bill, which became law on December 8, 2004, made it much easier to sell horses to be slaughtered for human consumption.
The new appointees come in with a different attitude, but the infrastructure that's there is basically Bush's infrastructure.
The very notion that the wild American horses will be slaughtered as a food source for foreign gourmets has struck a chord with the American people.
The Burns Amendment, I think, was put in place to help remove this, big glut of horses that we have in holding facilities right now.
There was no reason to pass the Burns bill, save for the fact that it helps the BLM avoid managing these horses.
A growing uproar over the U.S. government's deadly wild horse roundup in Nevada. Why is the U.S. government so hell-bent on getting these horses off public land?
The activity in the region is massive. Gas, uranium, coal.
There's a $3 billion 700-mile pipeline that will purportedly transport natural gas from Wyoming to Oregon.
It has obvious implications not only for wild horses, but also for other kinds of wildlife.
There's probably a real feeling that they don't really have to enforce things as far as the wild horses go. That's why you see these horses going across the border into Mexico for slaughter. There's just too much evidence there that tells you in your gut, they're not doing their job.
These horses will be butchered and sent to places like France, where they will be eaten in expensive restaurants.
Santa Teresa is New Mexico's largest livestock port of entry and exports no other animals into Mexico except slaughter-bound horses.
What's happening to our wild horses when they go to these long-term holding facilities? Are they slipping out the back door to slaughter?
Many horse advocates fear that without this federal protection, there will be no future for this priceless part of our American heritage.
If any of these politicians visited these sites where our indigenous animals are being slaughtered in an inhumane way and being sold for meat, I feel like there would be a different approach to what's happening.
We need to remind Americans that the public land is our land and should not be sold to the highest bidder.
It's about the survival of the American West as we know it.
If you believe in change for America, then believe in change for America's wild horses.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think that if we don't do something, that there's going to be somewhat of a new kind of revolution in the West where people are going to stand up for the rights, protect the quality of life, protect the things that make the West special.
I spent the 60s at the University of Wisconsin, and I'm no stranger to civil disobedience.
These are living things who have a right to coexist. Let's do something about this.
They basically represent the spirit of the Americas in a way that we can only begin to understand.
What's at stake is the future of this country. Simple as that.
It's a symbol, I think, of our freedom. It's a symbol of the cowboys' freedom. It's a symbol of that we pretty much look at America and think, well, hell, we're free. And the horse looks like he's probably a little more free than we are.
If we can't find room in our society to do whatever it takes to keep the wild horse from going to slaughter, I mean, that's really telling. It's an indictment against our society and our way of life.
I'm hoping that man will save the horse, because in so many instances the horse has saved the man.
It's just hard to believe that they want to euthanize these creatures.
The horses are in a battle out here for their survival. They're literally making their last stand.
If the public could view what was being done to wild horses, the public would stand up and take action.
They have been and they are managing wild horses to extinction.
These animals are so important. They tie us to our history, they are part of our heritage, and they have no one to protect them other than us. So please act.